Abhorrent Dimensions is the second full-length album from Turku, Finland-based death metal band Sepulchral Curse. We could qualify that death metal subgenre with a lot of extras there. We could call them melodic, we could call them somewhat technical, we could add a lot of things there, but they are generally influenced by melodic black metal on some level, influenced by melodic death metal in a very pre-1994 sense, and they create a very sophisticated form of death metal which is both atmospheric and accomplished in its diction and form. And that really comes down to the sort of main original lineups, pairing of two guitarists, and the way that their interplay is written in a very smart and aggressive way. Otherwise, you'll find members of this band in the now defunct Solothus and Yawning Void, and their style early on was compared to bands like Demigod and I would say early Sentenced, and there's a bit of a circa 1993 death metal sophistication to everything that they've done up to date. Now, their first record was very much a technical thrashing sort of edge to what it was doing. It was pushing as many notes out as it could in the most elaborate throngs available to sort of one-up the things that had influenced it. And I really appreciated that record, but I felt like it lost a little bit of the connection and the connectivity of that style. And they'd sort of overdone it in a good way. But this record, well, we'll cut into a song and see what they've done differently here. So the interesting thing about Sepulchral Curse is that a lot of people have listened to these records by them, their past several releases, and they don't seem to be able, they just can't tell what it is. You know, it's called blackened death metal, but I don't think that a lot of listeners have quite such an education in melodic black death metal and what the minutiae are of what the distinctions are in those realms. It is a bit more than dissection, and seeing the band compared to everything from Death Chain to Mitochondrion, when what I'd personally heard was probably closer to earlier Sulphur Aeon or perhaps Lantern in some sense, depending on what song you're at. So they combine black death metal in the sense that earlier Bolzer did, in that there's definitely an epic stance to a lot of what they're doing. There is a bit of fantasy to their movement, and there's a stoicism to that in some respect. But on this album, they push it a bit further into the realm of something like I think what I compared it to was Desolate Shrine or Lie in Ruin, some compatriots from Finland who also have influences from like Demigod and Immolation, and I would even go as far as saying that they reach a level of progressivity in the first half of this album, just slightly enough to where I would start talking about Aternus's transformation away from the early kind of black metal sound, which they never really connected with. So the album itself is fantastic in its expressive movements, from very intense, brutal kind of death metal feeling, which is soft-edged by a lot of melodic, blackened movement. And that means the interplay between the two guitarists is very much key to their sound, but they've got such a varietal touch to their movement that it was really hard to nail down what this was to start. Ultimately, a great death metal album, and one that is very repeatable. And I think I like Mark Erskine's illustrations in general. He fits a certain style quite well. I think that for me, this album cover it's almost there for depicting how this album feels to me. There is a certain darkness to it that's appreciable, but it didn't draw me in and set up expectations or immediately. So it wasn't immediately approachable. It took a while to get into this record. And so it's a high recommendation when I think a lot of people will fall into this record by accident and sort of find that it's actually really impressive and a great listen with tons of detail if you're the type to really analyze and soak in very detailed death metal work with black metal influences. So very much worth checking out here at the end of October, and I would say one of the better records of October, as you'll see when I make my list. So check that out. It's out now already, and go ahead and read the review for more of my thoughts.